Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Good Dram Show with me, Chris Goodrum. Right, okay, this week we're on to F. Not exactly an awful lot of choice when it comes to F, in actual fact. A choice of one distillery. And another one of those distilleries as a founder member of the Axis of Evil. That F is Fettercairn, or otherwise known as something else rather rude, but which I won't go into right now because that's being a bit rude. And I don't want to upset anyone, but not after a 2 seconds, a minute, you know. Anyway, if I upset people by the time I get to the end of it, then fine, not a problem. Anyway, so Fettercairn, it's a bit industrial. It's another one of those type of whiskies, although unlike Dufftown and the other distilleries of that ilk, it's actually quite a pretty little distillery. It's nice to look at, so it obviously goes to show that the distillery's output doesn't necessarily mirror what the actual distillery itself looks like. But anyway, I shall explain why I think Fettercairn is Fettercairn. Anyway, for those of you who wish to know, the distillery was founded in 1824. It's located in the Eastern Highlands of Scotland and has a capacity of 2.3 million litres, so not a particularly big distillery, in output terms anyway. So yeah, founded in 1824 by Sir Alexander Ramsay, who then sells it to the Tomatul Glenlivet Company in 1971 after it's been mothballed for a couple of times and brought back into production. Tomatul Glenlivet Company is then bought out by White and Mackay in 1988, and pretty much it's stayed in the White and Mackay portfolio ever since. It's a fairly traditional distillery, 8 washbacks, 2 pairs of stills. One of the stills was replaced in 2010 and another in 2011, so it's obviously the style may well have changed post then, but we will obviously see. The distillery itself tends to sort of release no age statement bottlings, the Fjord, which replaced the old 12-year-old, and they seem to end up in supermarkets a lot of the time, so that's kind of obviously where White and Mackay is aiming sort of Fettercairn at. Although they have released some older age statement Fettercairn, 24, 30 and 40 in actual fact. Bloody hell. 3 figures I guess for the 40-year-old Fettercairn. Anyway, I haven't got the 40-year-old Fettercairn to share with you today. In fact, I haven't got any of the distillery bottlings. I mean, I've only ever tasted Fettercairn distillery bottlings a couple of times, and that was quite a while ago. So you're going to have to make do with just independent bottlings for this afternoon. So anyway, that's enough of the waffle. Let's introduce this afternoon's little lineup. Right, okay, so as I said, we are just going to be looking at independently bottled Fettercairn, and there's not a lot of that about in actual fact. I mean, I probably count almost 2 hands worth of Fettercairn that I've tasted, and bizarrely enough, all of these 4 seem to come out practically at the same time. So anyway, we're going to kick off with a Hunter Laing bottling in the Hepburns Choice range. It was distilled in May of 2005 and bottled in March of 2014, thus making it 8 years old. So lovely young Fettercairn there. The next one we'll be looking at is from the other company, the Douglas Laing. This is bottled in their Provenance range, or the Douglas McGibbon Provenance range, distilled in 2004, February thereof, bottled in July of 2014, thus making it 10 years old, again bottled at 46%. Third bottling we'll be looking at is another Hunter Laing Hepburns Choice. This time it was distilled in 2002 and bottled in June of 2014, thus making it 11 years old, and again bottled at 46%. And the oldest one we shall save for last is in another Hunter Laing bottling in the old Malt Cask range, bottled at 50%, as you know. This was distilled in 1995. November, and bottled in again March of 2014, thus making it 18 years old. So like I said, they kind of came together almost at pretty much the same time. So it was like a case of, right, okay, Fettercairn, let's get these casks out of here. So anyway, so this is the old-fashioned or the old style of Fettercairn before they had the new stills put in. So right, let's get on with it then, I suppose. Right, okay, so we'll kick off with the 8-year-old. Let's see what the nose gives us then, shall we? Oh yes, that's Fettercairn. A little bit rubbery and fainty. A little bit of cardboard. There's some hard barley. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. There's not enough sweetness in this. It's hard. It's kind of Tobermory like. Has that almost coastally kind of character. There's no peat. Though that might have actually helped. It has to be said. It's not a charming and a pretty little number. It has to be said. It's yeah, pretty hard. Bit of white licorice, but oh, that barley is hard as nails. It really is. Palate. Oh, that's not nice at all. Oh, that's bitter. Bitter, light, bit of white licorice, bit of barley. Oh, it's really cardboardy and bitter. That is not an enjoyable whiskey, it has to be said. I mean, it's not a bad whiskey, it is what it is. This is the style of Fettercairn. It's like Dufftown, like the other members of the Axis of Evil. It's hard, it's industrial, and it's quite short and a bit vapid. It's only 8 years old. It doesn't really have any oak character. Yeah, it is what it is at the end of the day. It has to be said. So I think we're on to the next one. Right. Okay. Let's see if an extra 3 years has done it much favour. As you can see, I've not exactly got an awful lot in the glass. As you can probably see, Douglas Laing don't exactly send me huge samples, so it's obviously quite difficult to save some for these sort of tastings. I like Hunter Laing, that send me a nice big sample, or relatively big sample. So anyway, at least they send me samples. So I mean, you know, I can't argue with that, can I? I can't. Anyway, let's see what the nose gives us on this, then, shall we? Pretty much the same as the Hepburns Choice bottling. A little bit more sweeter barley, probably not quite as cardboardy, but all rubbery. It's a bit bland, I think is the word I would use. There's a little bit of vanilla, a little bit of toffee. Again, it's not exactly. It's not a sort of malt that sets your pants on fire, it has to be said, and makes you want to go, "Whoa, I like that." It's just kind of, it's there. It's a kind of, sort of industrial product by numbers kind of thing, it has to be said. So a bit more sweetness, like I said. So probably a bit of an improvement on the first bottling. Palate. It's a bit more oak. It's got a pleasant note of caster sugar, it has to be said. All that kind of cardboardy mustiness kind of comes through on the finish. It's all a bit weird, it has to be said, when you've got this cardboardy note and sort of caster sugar, and it's all a bit, you know, it's not quite all melded together. I mean, it's you know, they're trying to sort of balance each other out, but it's a strange one, it has to be said, that on the palate. It's not sort of, it's not really unpleasant, although I wouldn't say it's exactly enjoyable. There's, like I said, a bit more sweetness, a bit more a bit more oak, a bit more toffee, so possibly that's its savings of grace, I suppose. Right, moving swiftly on to the 11-year-old. I can't imagine that an extra year is going to make a huge amount of difference, and I imagine that these were probably, most of these casks were bought around about the same time, obviously, as fresh fillings. And I must admit, you don't very often see them, although I mentioned earlier that the distillery have bottled older age statements. You just don't often see it, you don't really see it at all, apart from in no age statement bottling. So anyway, let's see what an extra year does to it, shall we? A lot more oak on this one, a lot more bourbony oak rather than sort of vanilla oak. It's fresher on the oak, and that's pretty much all I'm getting, really. I mean, there's no, there isn't anything else. It's pretty much all bourbony oak. Maybe a little bit of barley. Not a great deal of distillery character, which I suppose in essence is not such a bad thing. It's a bit of soapiness coming out. Bit of soapiness. Can't really put my finger on what type of soap. It's a sort of sweetish kind of soap. It's not sort of pears or coal tar soap or something like that. It's got a, I must admit, I'm not an aficionado of soap. I don't go around smelling bars of soap, but it's kind of got a sort of sweetish kind of soapiness to it. I don't know whether that's any better or worse than sort of cardboardy industrial notes. God, I don't know. Yeah, palate. Oh dear God, that's awful. Soapy sugar water. Vapid. Yeah, God almighty. That really is pretty ropey. I mean, I'm sorry to say that. I mean, that really is not a great bottling at all. Even by Fettercairn standards. And I think the issue with this is probably whoever sort of selected this cask nosed it. I mean, because you nose it and you think, yeah, okay, it's all right. It's got some pleasant oak and bourbony oak kind of character, but they obviously didn't taste that, because that is not good. That really is vapid sugar water soap. Oh, ugh. Right, okay. On to the 18-year-old. Let's fingers crossed that maybe this has got a little bit more character. Like I said, this was bottled in the old malt cask range, so we're expecting a little bit of elevation in quality. Not to say that all the Provenance and Hepburns choice bottlings are of poorer quality, but obviously you're going to bottle your better casks in your higher price point range. You know, the Provenance and the Hepburns choice are all fairly young, between about 6 and 12, 13 maybe. They're styled to go in at a specific price point, and the complexity level generally is associated with that, it has to be said. So with the OMC range obviously sort of kicking in at around about £60–70 mark, you'd want to expect a little bit more. So let's see if there is a bit more. Quite herbal. It's actually quite pleasant by Fettercairn standards. Prickly, quite prickly, a lot of alcohol. White fruits, apricot. I think that's the first time you've actually heard me say fruit when talking about Fettercairn. There's a little bit of kind of coffee tinged mustiness possibly. It's not unpleasant. It's got some sweetness, it's got some barley, some honey. Nice herbal character. Almost kind of refill sherry-ish. I don't think this is. I think this is purely American oak, but yeah, it's got some pleasant notes to it. It's kind of, again, like a lot of this whiskies of this particular style, you want something else to kind of mask the distillery character, or at least balance it out. And this has got a lot of other things going for it. Whether I would put my hand in my pocket and spend 60 or 70 quid on a bottle of Fettercairn, of course, is another matter. But I think by Fettercairn standards, this is certainly the standout bottling of the four. Alan? Even a little bit of dusty sootiness on the finish there. More barley, less industrial. It's still a little bit industrial. It's got that edge to it. Some nice oak, some barley, some soft sweetish barley. It's actually quite smoky on the finish. Maybe that's what it needed. Maybe this was peated malt. I don't know. Certainly comes like that. It's more kind of coal dust sort of smoke. There's a little bit of heat to the finish, but nothing sort of like undue, and it's quite rounded, quite pleasant, and certainly I think the best of the four so far. So thank God we finished on a good one. Right, okay, so let's sum this little tasting up. Now, before I do, a lot of people have made comments about the slurping. A lot of people don't like it, and they go, "What the hell is he doing?" Well, it's quite nice because somebody, I forget the guy's name now, made a comment on the last video in the box underneath, saying, "Bloody slurping." And so he gave it a go himself, and suddenly he was going, "Oh my God, everything tastes different." And it does, and I did try to explain why it does that, and it's quite difficult to put it into words, but essentially what you've got is obviously the back of your nose is linked to the back of your throat, so it's pretty much a one-way street, I suppose. And when you have the whiskey in your mouth and you draw the air across it, it helps to determine with the flavours. It kind of, because it brings the olfactory senses into the equation as well as, I mean, essentially your tongue really only is picking out sort of like sweet and sour elements, and your brain then kind of like puts all these sort of little elements together. But essentially all you're tasting is sweetness and sour and variations thereof. Once you bring the sort of the nose in, it kind of gives it a more rounded picture. You start to get more of the esters, yeah, I do it, but it helps. I mean, otherwise you just go, yeah, okay. But by doing that, like I said, you bring the air over the spirit in the mouth, and you sort of like, you know, swill it around the nasal passages, shall we say, to give a bit of a fuller picture of your whiskey. But anyway, let's sum these particular bottlings up. 8-year-old Fettercairn. Well, you're not going to expect an awful lot from 8-year-old Fettercairn, to be honest with you, and it perfectly did what it says on the tin. It was 8-year-old Fettercairn. It's full of its lovely, wonderful distillery character, and not an awful lot else. So you can't knock it for that. The Provenance bottling, well, pretty much the same, to be honest with you. A little bit older, a little bit sweeter, a little bit more oak, you know, a little bit better balance, but again, you know, it was Fettercairn. It was never going to be a lovely, pretty little malt. The Fettercairn Hepburns Choice 11-year-old, well, I'm sorry guys, that was just a really bad bottling. I mean, you know, you're going to hate me for saying that, but you really picked a duffin on that one. It was awful. I mean, really, really dreadful. And you know, I don't wish to belittle anybody and all that, but essentially, you know, it's like anything. If you're an artist or what have you, you stick something out there in the marketplace, and you know, you have to accept and take your criticism on the chin. I've taken my criticism, people have criticised me, and you know, like I said many times, I don't kind of just go, well, that's a load of crap. You know, at least I give my reasonings for why I think it's poor quality, and that really was poor quality. poor quality spirit. You know, just oh, anyway. Thankfully, they redeemed themselves when it came to the old malt cask bottling. Again, it goes to show that that sort of style of whiskey, when there's something else going on, some sweetness, some oak, some barley, it's actually quite pleasant. Chuck in a little bit of smoke as well, and well, you know, you're actually getting an almost kind of passable bottling. It has to be said. I mean, it's although, you know, often there's no end of bottlings of leche that sort of tend to taste like you know, peated smoked cardboard, which is pretty grim, it has to be said. So it doesn't always work, but in this instance, I think it actually did. So, but like I said, I mean, I wouldn't be putting my hand in my pocket for that particular bottling, it has to be said. So, so there you have it. So there you go. That's the letter F dealt with, and thankfully we'll be going on to G, and well, there's a huge amount of whiskies beginning with, or distilleries beginning with the letter G, so God only knows what I'm going to pick. Hopefully I'll find some stuff with some really nice age to it, so we can you know, revel in some damn fine whiskey, as they say. But anyway, that's pretty much about it for this afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed this little episode of the show. So all that's left to say is, well, if you're a bit of a masochist, go by Fettercairn. Good ramming.